Hello and welcome back to a spooky kooky corner where today we're going to be making one of these little guys. There's a little spooky ghost. Because I've been doing Ghost-tober this month, I thought this would be a fitting needle felt for us to do. He's holding a little banner that says boo, and if you wanted to, you could make him into an ornament that you can hang, and I will show you how to do that. On this one I've also added a little bead just by way of contrast, but you don't have to add that, it's optional. The size that you make this, you could make a smaller version and it could be a brooch that you could pin onto a coat or a bag. So it really is up to you how you want to make this. The basis is you've got to have some, this is kind of like an off-white creamy, this is a core wool actually from World of Wool, and this works really nicely. Sometimes in the core wool you get little specks of things that you have to pull out, but that's not a major deal. It's really nice, it needle felts well, and that's the main thing. If you go for something like a merino tops, it might be a little too soft. You've got to have something with a bit of a texture to it, I think. So this core wool is going to be perfect. This is what I used for this guy here. So you'll need that. You'll need about a good handful. Obviously, if you want to make a smaller one, then you could go for maybe half this size, so you could get a little small ghosty brooch, which would be awesome as well. So that's the main thing you need. The other things that you will need are a tiny little wisp of pink wool fibres or acrylic fibres. You could actually do this with acrylic fibres as well, just saying. You could do this with toy stuffing, amazingly enough, if you want to do it in an acrylic. This is wool. This is a very small wisp. If you don't have any pink or anything else, you could even use orange for his cheeks if you wanted to. But if you don't have this, you could do maybe just brush on a little bit of pink pastel on the edge of a Q-tip just to give his little cheeks, or just leave them off altogether. There's many options. So that. The other thing you're going to need is some felting needles. I've got my big felting needle, well, it's not big, but it's got 5 needles in there. This one is the 3 needle pen tool. These are both from Clover. And maybe perhaps you will need a singular needle, especially when it comes to doing his cheeks and things, because you need to do a bit of detailed work on those. So that's felting needles. The other things you're going to need are these tiny little 5mm brads. Hope you can see those. These are teeny weeny ones. They're not as small as the 4mm ones I've got, clearly, but they are just the right size for this size ghost. If you wanted to go smaller, you could go with the 4mm ones. If you want to go bigger, obviously you might need to increase the size of the brads that you use. Also, for putting those in place, you will need some of my favourite Aleene's Felt and Foam Tacky Glue, or other option is the Beacon Felt Glue. These are great. You just pop some on the back of the brad, and then I'll show you how to affix those as we go along. But yeah, 2 5mm brads, or whatever size ghost you're making, try and make sure you get a brad that will match. The things we're going to need as options. So if you want him to have a little banner like this one, then I have got some pearl, kind of fluffy at the minute, pearl cotton that we're going to use as the string for his banner, and some little diamonds. These will fold over to form the triangles on his banner. You'll also need a little embroidery skills if you want to do Boo. I mean, you could leave that blank if you wanted to. He could just be holding a little orange banner, but if you wanted to finish this off, I'll show you how to do that as well. Just plain old black embroidery thread, which we'll not cut down, but we will split down, so we've got two strands in order to make his little mouse. And that's it. That's all you're going to need. So without further ado, let's get on with making our spooky ghost. Okay, so I've got my large felting brush. This is the Clover one, Clover Do 2. This one is the largest one of the two. You don't have to use this. You could have a piece of foam, you could have a specific felting mat, but you do need something in order to felt on top of it, otherwise you're going to damage your table or your knee or whatever else you might be felting on. So first of all, we're going to try and get some shape into our core wool. Let me just take you up a little further, give me a bit more room. Okay. And what we're wanting to get is a vague teardrop shape, or an inverted comma shape. I don't know what you'd want to call him. It doesn't have to be exact. Your ghost can be however you want him to be. He could be a thicker ghost, he could have a thicker top, he could have a floaty bottom. I don't know what they call that, a floaty bottom. You could have like a little indentations on the bottom, you know, just pick a ghost shape and go with it. So I'm trying to gather this together so I can vaguely get the teardrop shape that I'm looking for. If you want to, you could draw out the shape that you eventually want to get in on a piece of paper, so that you, as you go along, you can kind of match it up and just alter as you go along. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to lay out my piece of felt on top of there. Okay, so I've vaguely got my wool into shape, and now I'm going to try and lie it down. It will shrink as you make this. As the wool fibres lock together, it will start to shrink down into the shape that you want it to be. Just keep moving your felt around, or should I say moving your wool around, so that you don't get too flat a piece of felt. You don't want a great big flat piece of felt. You want it to have some dimension to it. So you keep at it, keep working on it. It's going to take some time to get the shape you want. Sometimes you'll find maybe that you haven't got enough felt or wool fibres on the top bit. It's all well and good, because you can just pull them up at the minute just to alter it around. So we're going to keep going with this. It is a labour of love in order to get your own spooky friend. I'm really enjoying the Ghost-tober drawing that I've been doing this month. It's nice to focus on one particular aspect, such as the spooky boys, because previous Inktober's that I have done, or Drawaweens or whatever, my focus hasn't been so fine-tuned, should I say. There have been different things I've done. So one year I did a whole load of bats, which was, I suppose, fairly fine-tuned, but not as much as this one. One year I did mythical creatures. Another year I did cryptids. So yes, it's been nice to have some kind of good focus on this. I think I've got a little too much at the base, just take some out. You try and wrap it together a little bit, it kind of helps. I might go in with my pen at the minute. So there we go. It's somewhat there. Do not despair. If it starts to fall apart, it will come back together. It's because we're moving it around. The moving around of it. All we need to do is just try and get it to hold together a little bit. So I'm just going to felt away and just keep trying to get my shape in. So I've got my little ghostie at the side here as a reference. Obviously he's not going to be exactly the same. All ghosties have their own little quirks. It's a bit like when I was making bears. All bears have their own personality. That personality starts to come out as you make them. I'm just going to keep going. Keep on swimming until we get this into the shape that we want it. So I'm just going to keep going, checking back to my original boy here, and I'll be back when I've got some vague shape to this. I want you to continue with yours. Keep going, keep checking back to your piece of paper where you've drawn the shape that you want. Just keep lying him on top, and then you can see where you need to add in extra felting bits. So if you are using your pen, you can kind of control where more of the felting takes place, should I say. Okay, so I'm going to go and carry on with this, and I'll be back when I've got the vague shape so that we can continue to refine it. Okay, so I've been working on this for about 5-6 minutes, and now we have some kind of the basic shape. He's still got a bit of a way to go. You can see that he will still shrink down. He's still quite squishy. So we need to work on him obviously a little more to bring all those fibres in together. As the fibres lock together, the piece will become harder. You'll actually feel it harden up. We don't want something squashy like when we made our pumpkins a while back. We actually want this to be quite firm. So a firm felting. Keep turning it round. Keep a shape that you want in your mind, and just keep going. I'm going to keep going with this for a little bit. I'll probably speed it up a bit and put a little bit of music behind so that you can see the process. Okay, he's getting there. He is still not quite as small as this guy, but I have a feeling that I had more wool to start off with. It's feeling the same kind of firmness about him. So maybe this one's just a little bit bigger. If you want your ghosts, if you make more than one, if you want them to be all of an equal size, then I suggest that you get a weighing scale and weigh out the amount of wool so that you'll know exactly how much wool you need. But I'm not that exact, and to be quite honest, I like the fact that they turn out differently. Even if you've got the similar plan, all of them will have their own little quirk of some kind, and maybe the mouth will look different, the cheeks will look different. It's all good fun, and it's all good. So I'm going to say that this, although a little bigger than the other one, is almost done. I'm going to keep fiddling with it because that's the way I do it. Okay, so once you've got this shape, what we need to do is pop that to one side because we want to make his little arms. Now, I pulled off some wool here from that big bundle that I had in my hand, and this is how we're going to make the arms. Okay, so we're going to make the arms. I'm going to use this as a little basis to wrap the wool around. So what you want to do is kind of just get a little wrapping tube going there, and I just pull it off there, and grabbing my needle tool, I'm just going to felt this together into little arm shapes. He's going to need these for general spooking, obviously, but also for holding his banner. And we're just going to keep rolling it around. Doesn't matter if you've got a load left here. What we want to get is a basic arm shape. We're also going to need a little bit of the floofy stuff at the end so we can attach it into his body. So we're wanting something about that length-ish. Doesn't matter if it's different, slightly different, it's all good. It will work because we make it work. Don't forget to do the ends. When you are doing this, remember your fingers and how you need to keep them out of the way of these very, very sharp needles. Also, forgot to mention, I have mentioned previously, but when you are needle felting, you do not need to go in any further than the barbs. If you can see the barbs on there, you don't need to be plunging it all the way in. You just need to be getting the barbs to where the barbs finish in order to felt your piece together. Also, when your needles are inside, do not twist and bend them. That will just end up in broken needles and danger, because you will have flying bits of sharp needle, which is not good. So you can see this is coming together as a little hand arm. You need to do 2 of those. So you know the drill. I'm going to continue to get my shape together here. So you want it to be quite firm as the body, but you need to leave floofy bits at the end here, and that is so we can attach it to our ghost's main body. Doesn't matter if you've got too much, we can trim some of that off. That's all good. So 2 of these, back with me in a minute. Okay, so we've now got arms. We should have 2. One of them I've attached onto our ghost here, and I was going to show you how to do this one. So what you should have is a nice firm arm at one end and a floofy bit at the other. If you've got too much floof, just pull a bit off. Okay, and then we're going to position it where we want it to go on his body and felt it in. Okay, so it goes down the side, try and get it in the same place as the other one. I put one on already, so felting all that loose floof into the body of your ghost. You can take it around the back, make it more secure. If you can splay the floof out a little so that you can then get it from all angles, that will give it a good firm base. It's not like you're going to be playing around with this too much anyway, because it is an ornament or a brooch. If it was a brooch, I probably wouldn't have the arms sticking out so much. I'd probably move them down a little, and also maybe not have the banner. It could just be a little ghost as a brooch, which I might actually do. I might actually make one for myself. But as this is, it's something that you can hang up, and so I just need to make sure that it's on nice and firmly. What I'm going to do now is go in with my finer 1 needle. I was going to say, if you don't have these tools with the extra needles, you could double up or triple up on singular needles and just hold them at the same time. It just speeds up the process basically, or you can just keep going with a singular needle. You'll get there eventually, but it is handy to have more than one, especially in the beginning when you're trying to get all the fibres felted together. So I'm just going to add the bit I pulled off there, just to blend in the area of where the arm is connected. So I've just got little wisps of wool that I'm just blending it into the area of, so that you don't get a join line as much. So I'm going to continue with this, finish this off, and I'll be back in a minute to show you how to finish off the features for your ghost. Okay, so he's got 2 arms, which is always a good thing. Now what I'm going to do first of all is to position his eyes. What I use for this is an awl, and I just make a little hole where I want his eyes to go. So just little guidelines. It can change this if I don't like it, which is one of the joys of needle felting. So I've got, don't know if you can see that there, 2 little holes where I want his eyes to go. In this lid I have popped the brads, so I'll just grab those out, and I'm going to put these in just to see how it looks. If I don't like it, I can take them out and reposition them. But I think we're all good to go with these. That one just needs bending slightly. There. That looks quite cute. So now comes the fiddly bit, where we have to just glue in the brads. Get my glue, which I always keep positioned on its head so that the flow comes together. So I want to kind of just grab a bit of glue on either side. As I say, it's a bit messy, it's a bit fiddly, just to get a little bit of dots of glue. You don't need too much of this because you don't want it to be overflowing and coming out to mark your wool. I'm just going to pop that and push it into the wool, and that will set and be fine. So let's do the other one. Remove all the bits of glue off my fingers. As I say, it gets a little bit messy, only a little bit. So and tidgy bit of glue on that side, tidgy bit of glue on that side, and then we find the hole without dropping our brad. pop it inside, push it down. Double check I've got them in the right place. And there's his eyes, so now we can see. That's all good. Right, let me pop that glue away. Get rid of all the little bits. And now we come to the cheeks. So this little wisp of wool that we have here, you only need a very small bit of it. I won't probably even use all of it. What I'm going to do is kind of roll it into a ball, position it on just underneath his eye, slightly to the side, and with a singular needle we're going to fill that in. And it gets a little blush just underneath his eye. As you can see, it didn't take much. As I said before, if you don't have any pink wool or orange wool, you could use a little bit of chalk or eyeshadow. Even if you've got some natural coloured eyeshadow, you could use that as well on a Q-tip. And then just, actually I think I might need a little bit more than that small ball there. Let's try this bit. Okay, that feels better. Don't want too much. Just want it to go underneath the eye. There. And melt it in. And turn it on its side so I can see where it's being melted. Make sure all the little end bits go in. And melt it into his face underneath his eye. Oh, he's got two little cheeks. Now, with the mouse, you can do this one of two ways. You could take a tiny little wisp of black wool and then felt that in, or you could embroider it. It is up to you. Whichever way you do it, you want to be sure of trying to get the mouth in the right place. Kind of position it in between the cheeks. I'm just giving myself a little starting point there. It's in the middle of his eyes and in between his cheeks. So I'm actually going to try and needle felt a little mouth into this one, just by way of a change. This one was stitched on here. You can see that. But I'm going to try a needle felt one. So I'll be back in a second with a little bit of black wool. Okay, so I've got my little sliver of black fleece, floof, whatever you want to call it, and I am going to try and position it in the right place. Try not to jab on my finger. And I just want to give him a little smile. So the singular needle for this one, for precise placement. Keep twisting it, because sometimes it becomes untwisted and then only want a little smiley ghost. His mouth isn't going to be this big, by the way. Once it gets felted in, it will just be a little tiny smile. I think that's just about right there. Just pulling all those ends in very gently with my needle. It's exacting work. Sometimes I needle felt the features, sometimes I use the chalk or the pastel cheeks and the embroidered face. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Well, it's nice to practice both, keep both. There he is, got a little mouth. He's got a little wry smile. He's not beaming, but he has got a little smile and he does look cheerful. So that's all good. He's a shy little ghost, which is why he's holding a banner that says boo rather than scaring you in person. It's one of those that creeps up on the shoulder and says, excuse me, but boo. So there we have it. He's got his little face features. And now what we're going to do is to make his banner. For that, we're going to use these little diamonds of orange felt, which I've got here. Let me pop him over to one side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my embroidery needle and with my magic marker on half of the diamond, I'm going to give myself the little B guideline, a little O, and another O on the other one. If your embroidery skills are not what you wanted, you could literally draw this on with a Sharpie of some kind. It's not going to be as neat as the embroidery, because what happens is with this magic marker pen, during time and heat, this will the actual mark will disappear, and all that will be left will be the embroidery. I'm going to grab my embroidery thread and I'm going to embroider these on in just a simple back stitch. I'll be back to show you. Okay, so we've got 2 of the letters embroidered, but some glue stuck to my fingers. So going on for the last one, it's just a simple back stitch with 2 strands of embroidery thread. Helps if remember to go back. There we go. Not the neatest O I've ever done, but you get the gist. Doesn't take too long to do this. So we're almost there. The last couple of stitches just to finish off that. Oh, there we go. Go into the back, wrap it around a couple of times, pull it to, snip it off. Okay. Right, here comes the next messy fiddly bit. We've got our banner and we've got our diamonds, which will soon be triangles. And how this is going to work is we'll grab glue, and on the other side of the diamond I'm just going to put a fair amount of the glue on there. We position our thread over that and pull it forward. And put the first letter in. Same again on the other ones. You can leave a slight gap in between them. It depends on the gap you've got in between your ghostie's arms, which can be changed. So I'm just going to leave a tiny gap in between mine. So glue it position it. You've got a little bit of manoeuvrability once you've got them on there anyway as well. Then fold it over, press it down. If you want to move it in a bit, move it in a bit. Last one goes on there. Put my glue away and position and glue. And then we've got our little banner. The glue will also have the added benefit of stiffening up the felt. See, I've got a little bit of glue on there. It will dry clear if you do get any on there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is to position the banner onto our ghost. I've got my thicker needle here. Should have. Got quite a thick, or should I say a big head to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread it through the arm of my ghost, like so. And then I'm going to take it back through his arm to the other end. And I'm not going to knot it or anything because it should stay in place. It's held by the wool fibres inside his arm. And if you want to just lose any of these bits, you could just put a piece of needle felting wool over it and just felt it in. You don't want to see where the thread is. It just disappears inside. Okay, so we're going to do the same again with the other side. And oops, this is what happens sometimes when I'm trying to thread needles. If you have been watching this channel at any point, you'll have seen my battles with needle threading. Again in there, coming out the other side, pulling it through gently so that he's got his banner, and taking it near enough back in the same place it came out, through his arm, pulling it out that side, and I'm going to pull it a little so that it jaunts its way back inside, where we can just position his banner so that he's holding it. And there he is, this little banner. Well done, it's holding it up. You can reposition the letters on his banner however you see fit. There, it's finished. And all you can do now is, like we threaded, basically I just took some of the cotton that we used for the banner, threaded it through, and needle felted over the top of it just a little bit, and then just popped a little bead on the top, which you can glue in place if you want to. I'm going to leave this one without a thread now, but there he is. Two ghost friends. Can just pop that down there a bit. And both with their banners. Enjoy making these. I'm sure you're going to have an army of ghosts by the end of this, but they are quite addictive. You can make them you can make a black ghost if you wanted to, in a different colour, and give him some white eyes if you wanted to make him even more spooky. It's down to you. Enjoy making them. I'll be back soon with something else, probably spooky. Take care for now. Bye.